Hello, my name is Thomas Poska, and today I will be demonstrating to you guys how to draft the best possible fantasy football team for this upcoming season. Now, although fantasy football is not for everyone, myself personally, I love fantasy football. I take it very seriously. I've been playing since I was 12. I know a lot of people in my life, and I have a lot of people around me that also play fantasy football and that also have a lot of fun playing it. If you don't play fantasy football, you don't know what it is. Basically, fantasy football entails you draft a team of actual NFL players onto your fantasy team, and you play one of your friends this week. You play another friend next week. You have to set your lineups each week. It's a point system. There's quarterbacks, wide receivers, running backs, tight ends, defenses, kickers. That's really the main introduction when it comes to fantasy football. Fantasy football, a lot of people would say fantasy football is probably 75% luck, 25% skill. That's probably true for the most part, if not all the part. Fantasy football is a lot of luck. Some players, they're projected to go into the season, be the 5th ranked receiver in football. They end up finishing as the 47th best receiver in football. And you draft them as the 5 spot. You draft them as the 5th receiver off the board, and he gets you the production of the 47th receiver off the board. So that's kind of tough. Injuries happen all the time. That it's part of the game. So it's a game of ups and downs and luck, but I'm here to show you how I think you can possibly draft the best fantasy football team. And right behind this, I have a few steps on how to draft a good fantasy football team. And step number 1 is your first round pick is how are you going to build your team. And what I mean by that is, say you're in the 5th overall spot. You gotta look who's gonna be there at 5 and who's not gonna be there at 5. If you're picking at 5, Justin Jefferson, Christian McCaffrey, and Jamar Chase. All 3 of those players are gonna be gone. They're the consensus top 3, no order, but those 3 are gonna be off the board no matter what in basically every league. So that leaves you with Cooper Kupp, Austin Eckler, Travis Kelce for most people. Austin Eckler is a good running back in a good offensive system in Los Angeles, but he's getting old, and old running backs tend to regress in the NFL. That's the best way to put it, and that's the truth. You can look in the past. Young running backs are young running backs, they get the bulk load of the carries, they get the touchdowns and stuff like that. The older running backs, not saying they don't get carries and touchdowns, but their workload kind of diminishes as their years go on and they get older. When it comes to a player like Cooper Kupp arguably is probably the best wide receiver in football, but Cooper Kupp is coming off of a serious hamstring injury that he hurt last year, and over the summer he's been nursing it all off season. And it's a question mark going into the season. How is Cooper Kupp going to be coming off a hamstring injury? As a wide receiver, your hamstring, you use that a lot. So, it's a risk that, I don't know, who's going to play that risk and draft Cooper Kupp at 5? Travis Kelce is the 5 spot. Probably your safest bet. Kelce is the best tight end in football. He's arguably the best tight end of all time behind Rob Gronkowski. He's got the best tight end. He's got the best quarterback throwing to him, Patrick Mahomes. The Chiefs, they're always playing big games. Their offense is high flying. It's how they are. So Kelce's a safe play, and if you draft a tight end, your tight end spot is locked up for the rest of the year, barring any injuries. So that's why I would say at 5, probably Travis Kelce is the best spot, and you're going to build your team around your tight end. You have your tight end for the year, and you're building around Kelce. The second step is skill positions, and by skill positions, I mean running backs and wide receivers. You want to draft running backs and wide receivers that, you want to draft that they're in the top spots and that are some of the best in football. You look at receivers like you could get in the second round, like Amon-Ra St. Brown or Garrett Wilson. Both young receivers, both with tons of promise, both on top offenses with top quarterbacks coming into the season. Amon-Ra is probably one of the best slot receivers in the league. Garrett Wilson was a stud at Ohio State. And last year's rookie put up 1,000 yards. So you know what you're going to get with him, with both of them, barring any injuries, of course. So you know that's a safe bet. And with your running backs in the third round, it's a tough spot, because there are quarterbacks there too. Depending on how you feel about drafting a quarterback in the third round, there are players probably like Josh Allen or Jalen Hurts that are still going to be available. Patrick Mahomes is probably going to be the first quarterback off the board, so you're going to probably get Allen or Hurts if you want them in the third round. Josh Allen and Hurts both provide similar, both good running quarterbacks, both can throw the ball, both in good offenses, both have top receivers. Josh Allen having Stephon Diggs, Jalen Hurts having A.J. Brown. So you know what you're getting. I mean, if you feel safe drafting one of them in the third round, you can do that. Other than the fourth round, you can draft someone like an Aaron Jones or James Conner. Excuse me, who are two running backs on the older side of things, but two running backs who still produce good numbers. And if you're looking for a young running back in the fourth round who can step into your lineup and just produce right away, that could be Kenneth Walker in Seattle. He stud last year, 1,000 yards last year. His rookie year, he would have ran for 1,000 if he didn't tear his ACL. He was up for the best college football player in the country at Michigan. That Seattle offense has always been run heavy ever since Marshawn Lynch was there. Pete Carroll's the head coach. It's always going to be run heavy offense. So, I mean, you could draft Kenneth Walker in the fourth round after you go out and get a guy like Allen. Third step, promise and depth. So after your 4 rounds, you kind of have the core of your team. Your starting lineup's not filled out, but you have an idea of the core of your team, And now you're going to look to just add some promise and some depth. And by promise, I mean you're going to want to look to young players or players who have a bright future this upcoming year. They're in good offenses, they're young, good quarterbacks, they're in a good situation. They're going to get a lot of targets, and by targets I mean balls thrown to them. So I mean, you're going to look for wide receivers like that. For running backs, you're going to look for running backs who are the best running backs on their team, who really aren't competing for touches with any other running backs on their team. The goal line back. Goal line backs get touchdowns and stuff like that. The receiving backs, those are the third down backs who can get the catches and stuff. So there are players like this year I like Alvin Kamara, that spot. I think he provides you good depth. I think he's a good second running back behind Kenneth Walker, and I think that's a solid running back to get. Then for promise, I look at receivers like Zay Flowers, Jordan Addison. Jordan Addison coming out of USC as a rookie, he's a stud. He's in a good offense with Kirk Cousins. He's got Justin Jefferson. A lot of defenses are going to pay attention to Justin Jefferson, which leaves Addison some open looks. Then you have Zay Flowers, rookie out of Boston College. Lamar Jackson's been waiting for a top receiver. He finally has one now with Zay Flowers. I like Zay Flowers here. I think he has a lot of promise. Boston College boy too, so represent. I like him here, When it comes to other people, Christian Watson could be there. Javonte Williams, although he was hurt last year, Denver's going to be a run-heavy offense this year. I think he could possibly be a good option. And then you want to fill out your draft with bench spots. Bench spots want to consist of a backup quarterback. You're going to want to get backup running backs. You get Ezekiel Elliott on the Patriots. He's backup to Ramondre Stevenson, but he's still going to get reps. You could look to get a receiver like Tyler Boyd on your bench. He's the third receiver in Cincinnati, but Cincinnati with Joe Burrow throwing the ball, top quarterback in football. Jamar Chase is there. A lot of defense going to pay attention to Jamar Chase. Tyler Boyd could be a good option in the late rounds. And Dalton Kincaid, he's a rookie tight end. If anything were to ever happen to my top pick in Travis Kelce, I would have Josh Allen's tight end, who is my quarterback. I would have Josh Allen's tight end, Dalton Kincaid, who I could throw in the lineup, and I'd be pretty content with that. Although Kincaid's a rookie, he put up really good numbers at the University of Utah last year. And Allen, he loves throwing the ball. He loves throwing the ball downfield. He loves working the ball downfield. He's worked the ball to Dawson Knox, his other tight end in the past, but Kincaid definitely has more skill than Knox, and it definitely provides more promise and more upside. So I like drafting Kincaid late. And with your last couple picks, I like looking Pat's defense. Besides the point, last couple picks, you're gonna want to get a kicker and a defense. You always save those for your last 2 picks. You want to use your other picks, fill out your team, fill out the team to your best of your ability, and that is how to fill out your roster. And then you want to go get your kickers and defense. Kickers, pretty self-explanatory. You kind of want to look for good kickers who are on good offenses who can score a lot. Kickers like Harrison Butker on the Chiefs, Evan McPherson on the Bengals, Jason Myers on the Seahawks. Those just to name a few. Jason Sanders on the Dolphins, just to name a few of the good kickers that you could go out there and draft. When the season goes along, you could look to add and drop kickers depending on how they're playing out. And same thing with defense. Although, like I said, I love drafting Patriots defense just because I like watching. When I watch Patriots games, I like knowing that I have their defensive fantasy. You could go about that as when the regular season comes around, people are playing different opponents, different offenses, worse offenses, better teams. You could add defenses, drop defenses, depending on what the matchups look like. And fourth step, good luck because you'll need it. Like I said, fantasy football is a game of luck and is a game of 75% skill, probably. You're just going to want to pay attention. Every week you're going to want to be locked in. Check your lineups at least 3 times a week just to make sure your team's ready and you're not missing anyone. You don't want to have someone in your lineup, and if they're ruled out late, you don't want to keep them in because you can't change that when the game starts, which stinks, but it's the rules of the game. And like I said earlier, this was kind of a mock draft from the 5th spot, and I ended up drafting a team from the 5 spot, like you guys kind of heard throughout the speech. And this was my team, as you can see, with Josh Allen, Kenneth Walker, Kamara, Wilson, Michael Pittman, Travis Kelce, Jordan Addison. There's Breece Hall, Zeke Elliott, Kirk Cousins, Tyler Boyd, Dalton Kincaid, and then Jason Myers and Patriots defense. Although I didn't name everyone in the speech, the majority of them were named. And I don't know if this is a league-winning team, but hopefully it is, and maybe some of you drafted the same exact team. But hopefully this helped you out, and I wish you all the best of luck in this upcoming fantasy football season. God bless you and have a good one.